All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Vivian, and on behalf of Crafted for Action, just want to welcome you. I'd like to welcome you to what is our session? Burnout in and beyond the beer industry, how to battle it before it beats you. And so please feel free to ask questions and engage with the panel by leaving a comment. The presenter will be sure to leave some time at the end for your questions. And so without further ado, we're going to introduce Tara Nuren.
Good morning. Thank you, Vivian. I appreciate you. Good morning, everybody. I hope the conference went great for everyone yesterday, and I really appreciate you all joining me for this really critical topic this morning. Hope you've got your coffee or a beer. I've got my coffee and water ready to go. Now, I don't generally love to start presentations with announcements, but I do want to let you know we are going to be talking about some tough subjects today related to mental health, discrimination, and toxic workplaces. So please feel free to step away. If you're watching the recording, hit pause. We'll be here when you get back. And as Vivian said, please do chat in the chat. I love to see comments. Love to know, what are your experiences with burnout? What do you do to take care of yourself? What works? What doesn't? What are some of your challenges? I'm going to start by sharing that I am on year 3 of what was supposed to be a 1-year burnout recovery period. It is a process. It's more of a process than I expected. Not that I knew what I was really getting into at the time. And I see how much easier burnout prevention is than burnout recovery. So today I'm going to tell you some ways that I take care of myself related to burnout, and I'm going to introduce the personal and professional strategies and self-care tools that my research shows provide the most bang for your anti-burnout buck. One other announcement, I apologize in advance. Some of the videos have a little bit of rough editing. Google Slides editing isn't very precise, so apologies for that. Enough said. Let's get started. Yeah. So how many of you can relate to these descriptions of burnout?
As soul-sucking emptiness and despair, where caring and passion for my work used to exist. A lack of joy in success and mounting dread of my failures. Exhaustion, apathy, and dread every time I think about work. Desire to curl up and never move, which is actually...
If you're feeling burnout, you are far from alone. In a recent survey of craft brewery employees and owners conducted by Crafted for Action speaker Katie Mugley of Infinite Ingredient, more than 80% report themselves either somewhat or completely burnt out. The good news is there is a lot you can do to recognize, prevent, and mitigate burnout. First, by understanding what it is, then by trying to improve your working conditions and building more resilience. That's such a key word, resilience, into your own mental health makeup. So, what exactly is burnout and why is it so dangerous? In 2019, the World Health Organization finally defined burnout and classified it as an occupational phenomenon and defined it as a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. Collectively, scholars identify burnout as cumulative stress that leads to exhaustion, pessimism, negativity or cynicism, and reduced professional efficacy and diminished self-worth. Burnout can cause depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations, and lead to many, many, many long-term mental and physical health problems, not to mention something very personal to the beverage industry, which is increased alcohol and drug use. Tessa West, author of Jerks at Work, Toxic Coworkers and What to Do About Them, explains, you can experience only so many daily stressors, spikes in blood pressure, and spikes in cortisol, which is the so-called stress hormone. Eventually, you shut down. You don't have the cognitive, emotional, and physiological resources required to engage. A Gallup report attributed 2 of the main causes of burnout to unfair treatment in the workplace and poor communication and support from management. That report showed that employees who felt they experienced unfair treatment at work were more than twice as likely to experience serious burnout as those who didn't. And leading global management firm McKinsey & Company says toxic workplace behavior was by far the biggest predictor of burnout symptoms and intent to leave within 3 to 6 months. But burnout isn't just a personal problem. It's a problem for workplaces whose employees suffer from higher rates of sick leave, absenteeism, and serious turnover, like we just said, along with decreased job performance across myriad metrics. It will likely surprise exactly none of you that in studies that splice burnout into gender, racial, and ethnic groups, underrepresented populations tend to suffer the most. In a frequently cited pre-pandemic survey of cancer doctors, those who self-identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual had the highest rate of burnout relative to their straight counterparts, followed by females relative to men. Multiracial oncologists reported double the rates of burnout symptoms compared to white ones. I couldn't find any sort of solid study on BIPOC men specifically, but I did encounter some troubling stats on Black women and Latinas. Let's take a look. Excuse me. The Lean In organization, which I highly recommend if you're interested in this topic or topics of, how are different populations doing in the workplace? They do some really good studies. So the Lean In organization released a report just last week showing that almost 1/3 of Latinas in the corporate world are burned out. Only 1% of C-suite executives are Latina, meaning they face the biggest drop in representation from the entry level. This is called the broken rung syndrome. We often talk about the glass ceiling, but really what is more realistic is broken rung, getting from entry level to the next step of the ladder. So it's Black women who experience the most significant broken rung up that corporate ladder. For every 100 men promoted from entry level to manager, only 58 Black women are promoted. And according to Lean In, women of color, and Black women in particular, tend to receive less support and encouragement from their managers. This can impact their rates of promotion and belief that they have an opportunity to advance. I'm going to just be quiet for 1 second if you want to take a look. I know there's a lot of data in that, what I'm showing on the slide. If anybody wants the slides afterwards, I'm more than happy to send them out. But again, this is from Lean In. So if you're interested, you can just find it right there on their website. Excuse me. So even though you probably can't single-handedly change your workplace's culture, you can and should advocate for yourself to try to create better terms and projects that can reduce burnout for you. For one, and this is probably counterintuitive to what a lot of us feel or were taught as kids. For one, speak up early and often about what you need. Feeling you have control over your work environment hugely decreases your likelihood of burnout. McKinsey says bosses tend to feel that they have the resources to put out little fires, but not big ones. And with each little victory, they add up. You'll feel like you have more agency and your locus of control will go up. Now I'm going to read this long quote. It's long, but I couldn't take it out or cut it because I love it. I'm going to take a sip of water while you take a look, and I'm going to read it out loud in 1 sec. Stretch. All right. So one McKinsey report reads, when it comes to things like microaggressions or discrimination, most people think, my boss knows, they're just too busy to care. Chances are, says McKinsey, your boss doesn't know, or at least not to the extent that it's happening. We wait until issues stew, and they've been marinating so long, we're super bitter and disengaged. Who can relate to this? You have to bring them up immediately and stop telling yourself, oh, it wasn't a big deal. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to rock the boat, right? Stress at work is a death by 1,000 paper cuts. But here's some good news. Employees who find their work meaningful more often report having better holistic health, even when they tolerate toxic workplace behaviors. So if you're doing too many tasks at work that you don't enjoy and not enough that you do, see if you can shift or delegate some of those unpleasant tasks and volunteer for some rewarding paid projects. Now, when I write this every time, I'm like, well, who's going to want to take on those unpleasant tasks? That's not very cool of me to ditch them on a coworker. But you know how at home you've got certain chores that you don't mind doing and certain ones you hate, and then like your roommate or your partner or whoever is the opposite. So there's something you might hate doing that somebody else doesn't mind. So talk about what you might be able to move around, and find that the more meaning you find in your work, the more you enjoy your projects, the less your likelihood of burnout. But I emphasize paid because I did say volunteer. If you're volunteering for a project, try to shift some stuff off your plate so you don't get overloaded. Then, when you're having this conversation with your manager, ask for what you need to get there, to get to your goal. Lay out, okay, here's my goal. Here's where I'd like to be. Here's what I'd like to do. Here's how it'll benefit the company. And here's what I need to get there. If that's additional training, ask for it. That would provide a double whammy because educational advancement at work also negatively correlates with burnout, as long as you're not overloading yourself, like I said. So take advantage of trainings and conferences exactly like this one. If you identify as female or non-binary, the biannual International Pink Boots Society Conference is in my town, Philly, next week. We still have tickets available. Some employers will pay for you to attend conferences like this, or CBC, or Barrel and Flow. And even if they don't pay for the conference tuition and your travel, they might give you PTO. So it's definitely worth finding out what's out there and asking if you can go. One example of a project you could propose starting if you want to take this route is propose starting an employee resource group if you don't already have one at work that you fit into. So these ERGs are support groups for specific populations like, say, BIPOC women or working moms. And these help connect you to your community at work when you feel isolated from feeling like you're the only, fill in the blank in the room. Lean In and other organizations have a lot of great free resources for starting these circles, both at work and in your personal life. I have to say, I work for myself, so I don't have an employee resource group to tap into, but I am part of several online women's groups, just in my personal life, and they helped get me through the pandemic. Some of those people have become my best friends. I cannot recommend these circles enough if you don't feel like you have a community of people who are like you. Hopefully, when you ask for these things, you'll find a receptive audience in your boss, as the work world is finally starting to support the idea that burnout is bad for business. Here's McKinsey again. Oh, you know what? Every time I quote McKinsey and put it on the screen, I'm going to take a sip of water. Y'all can do the same. Hang on. Take a look at that quote. I'll be right there. This might seem weird to be doing, but as you will see, I'm a huge advocate for healthy habits, and water is one of them. I yelled out to the window of my car the other day to some kids who were selling like candy on the street corner or something. I was like, make sure you all drink water if you're standing out here in the heat. I don't know if they heard me. They probably thought I was weird. Anyway. So McKinsey says, we are currently going through a big cultural transformation as downtime, recovery time, and recharging time are increasingly recognized as part of peak performance. Now, as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I'm no fan of former quarterback Tom Brady, either on or off the field, unfortunately. But I do respect that even the GOAT, greatest of all time, is preaching the message of rest and recovery.
Your ability to perform is only as good as your ability to recover. And recovery doesn't just start when your game or workout ends. Recovery is a 24/7 process, and everything matters. From the foods you eat to how much you drink, how much you sleep, it all has an impact. Preparing your body before a workout or game can have a huge effect on how you feel after. Focusing on recovery has helped me play at my best for the past 20 years. And when you focus on recovery, you give your body what it needs to repair itself and be ready for any challenge.
All right. So unfortunately, you can't bring rest and recovery into your life by simply taking a vacation, unlike conventional wisdom, because your stressors are going to be right there waiting for you when you get home. So what can we do? Prioritize healthy boundaries and self-care. Drink water. You think that work won't allow you to set boundaries, or that self-care is a cliche or just for girls or anything like that? Think again. Even the military is promoting them these days. Excuse me. Without boundaries, you're not going to be a help to yourself or others, instructs this article on the Army's website. And I'm laughing because the Army is talking about self-care and setting boundaries. This article further recommends getting ahead of burnout with self-care rituals like taking short breaks during the day and scheduling a little bit of time between appointments. And, you know, I'm going to repeat the call to put comments in the chat. What are things that you do at work to like take a little teeny break? Are there things that you've tried to do that, you know, hasn't been quite kosher with your work that you thought were fair, good sort of boundaries and burnout protection? You know, if you want to share anything in the chat, please do. So self-care isn't selfish. I think we are starting to get into a period of time, a shift in zeitgeist, as McKinsey said, where people are starting to realize that a little bit. So in a few minutes, we're going to look at some lifestyle changes you can make to build resilience and combat burnout. But first, I want to give all of you overextended skeptics some ideas that you can work into the few spare minutes in your day. If you're arguing with me right now in your head, work isn't going to allow me to work less, or that you don't have time to practice self-care. Sorry. I mean, those are all legitimate, but listen up. I argue that you do actually have many moments in your day to practice what some people call resets, or I tend to call centering. No one even necessarily has to know if you get up and walk around your desk every hour. Yeah. And it looks like Vivian said she takes a walk around the building just to get moving. Exactly. Did you read my presentation? Because that's one of my examples. Here we go. Right. No one even necessarily has to know if you get up and walk around your desk every hour. It's more productive that way anyway, to take a break between 60 and 100, every 60 to 120 minutes. Take deep breaths for 10 seconds, or step outside, like Vivian said she does, for that last 60 seconds before a meeting instead of replying to some random email. We all do that, right? Like, oh, my meeting starts in a minute. Let me knock this email out. No, get up and go outside for 60 seconds. Although maybe not today, because it's like 100 degrees. I sometimes actually start my meetings by doing this. And I hope Vivian doesn't mind me saying that, like, when we both met a little while ago before we started this presentation, we both did that. We were like, okay. And then I knew I'd found a kindred spirit immediately. So I close my eyes. I inhale and exhale deeply a couple times until I feel more calm. I tend to do this because I do a lot of yoga, and this is like the namaste thing, prayer hands. And then in my meetings, I invite everybody to do the same. If they want to do it, awesome. They don't, fine. And I actually do this everywhere. I've done it in the middle of a rock concert, kind of crouched down for a while and just like closed my eyes and breathed for a while. My friend had to check on me a few times to make sure I was okay. And I was fine. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I need. I feel great. I do it in my mom's apartment when she's stressing me out. I do it everywhere all the time. And I'm okay if people are like, what is she doing? Because I am centering. So here's Good Morning America anchor Robin Roberts doing something very similar. She sometimes stops her daily social media videos to very visibly take a deep breath. And she tells her audience that's what she's doing. Like right after this picture, In the video, she went, and breathe. So when practiced regularly, some experts call these micro habits or habits too small to fail. You can do them without even taking time from anything else. Check it out. For example, you can set intentions for your day while you're brushing your teeth in the morning. You can think of 3 things to be grateful for while you're washing the dishes. You can get your phone out of your bedroom by plugging it in downstairs instead of like doom scrolling right before bed, which is bad for your sleep patterns. Once you're ready to scale up from these micro habits and create lasting change for yourself, I've identified 5 activities to do in your personal life that my research shows truly make the biggest difference. Yes, you've heard them before. Yes, you're going to be like, yeah, I know I should sleep more. Tell me something I don't know. But study after study shows that these 5 things really significantly improve your well-being. So I just gave myself away. Number 1, guess what it is? Sleep. After passing out from exhaustion and busting her cheekbone on her desk in 2007, Huffington Post founder Arianna Huffington has devoted her life to teaching people how to avoid burnout.
Because of that, I studied, I met with medical doctors, scientists, and I'm here to tell you that the way to a more productive, more inspired, more joyful life is getting enough sleep.
McKinsey, who's got great info, I could quote them constantly. McKinsey agrees. Sleep is the foundation of our immunity, mental health, and cognitive performance. I'm going to read that again because it is so important. Sleep is the foundation of our immunity, mental health, and cognitive performance. It is not a time of inactivity. Rather, sleep is a time of profound activity in the brain. It's the only time that our brain can clean up toxins that collect during the day. And if we don't clean them up, they accumulate. Part of the reason I love quoting McKinsey so much is this is like all suits, all MBAs, right? They are MBAs. They're talking to MBAs. Like these are business people. So when they talk about the importance of sleep and self-care and preventing burnout, change is afoot. My friend who's very into astrology swears that this is the year we're entering the age of Aquarius. So let's hope. My personal top sleep tip, keep the same bedtime and wake up time every day as much as possible. And that even goes for weekends. A set sleep routine is essential for your body to set itself up for the day. So catching up on sleep by sleeping in doesn't actually work. It's better to take a nap later on if you're tired. You've heard of circadian rhythms. They govern our body. They govern how grumpy we are, how much we can focus, how much we eat, the healthy choices we make. Sleep and your circadian rhythms are the foundation of all of it. Maybe not all of it, a lot of it. And so this consistent sleep schedule is key. That's been incredibly hard for me. I'm somebody who doesn't like mornings. I'm very tired in the morning. I can never wake up on time. And I gotta say, after like really trying to go to bed by like between 11 o'clock and midnight every night, no matter what, I'm actually like waking up on time almost every day, except for a couple weekends when I had partied a little too much. Sorry, moderation is key, but that's the truth. I don't actually even really need coffee in the morning anymore. I mean, I still drink it, but I don't need it anymore. So it can be done. And I have been battling this battle my entire life. So if you stick with it, any habit small enough and consistent enough can stick. All right. Number 2. Move your body every day. We know exercise releases endorphins, but did you know that it also releases antidepressant neurotransmitters into your brain like dopamine and serotonin? I did not. And you don't even have to hit the gym. If you hate the gym, don't go to the gym. I sometimes plan walking dates with friends instead of drinks. And in addition to wearing a Fitbit and trying to meet my step goal every day, I do a daily 10-minute mindfulness walk with no phone, no earbuds, no distractions. And I concentrate on looking and listening to my environment. I key into the birds. I walk around my neighborhood. I notice the new flowers. And it helps cultivate my ability to become more mindful, aka be in the present moment. And again, study after study shows cultivating mindfulness, ability to be in the present moment, is a great stress reduction and burnout insulator against burnout. This 10-minute mindfulness walk has very quickly become my favorite self-care tool. If I've been up like an hour or two and I haven't done it yet, I'm like, all right, I'm going, got to get that walk. I love it. It's actually really relaxing for me. And here's a fun fact I learned just last week from my meditation guide. When muscles contract, they secrete proteins called myokines into the bloodstream. These nicknamed hope molecules improve our mood and ability to learn. So the benefits of moving your body just keep coming out and coming out and coming out. Next, nature. Get some. Spending time in nature reduces stress, boosts the immune system, and improves mood and focus. If you can't get into the woods, that's okay. Drink your coffee outside. When it's not 100 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning, I drink my coffee on my deck every morning. You can listen to nature sounds. That helps. Or just bring a plant into your office. In a pinch, these all serve as supportive substitutes. Excuse me. 4, meditation. Benefits to mental and physical health are practically endless, and a ton of studies show a staggering immediate and long-term reduction in burnout among nurses, doctors, and teachers, among many other populations. For the past 2.5 years, I've been practicing an ancient Indian form of meditation called transcendental meditation, as do, not coincidentally, Robin Roberts, Oprah Winfrey, Tom Brady, God bless him, I guess, and Arianna Huffington, along with a lot of other top performers, celebrities, business people. Now, learning transcendental meditation requires 4 days of training. So it's not something you can just like jump right into, but anyone can meditate. Anyone, even if you've tried it and it didn't work. A lot of people are like, I can't meditate. I've tried it. I was one of those people. And it's because the misconception is that if you have thoughts, you're not meditating. Not true. So don't give up. Try meditating. You can use a free app to do it, or you can just start for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Here's how you can get started. Sit comfortably in a quiet space, turn your ringer off, put the dog outside, make sure the kids are fed and happily staring at their screens, maybe. Focus on your breathing. And if you have thoughts, and you will, everyone has thoughts. We're human. It happens. The top meditators in the world, they all have thoughts. They don't go away. It's fine. Just try to observe the thought without attaching any judgment or emotion to them. Some people try to picture them as just clouds passing by. Oh, okay. That's a thought. That's a thought. That's nice. There you go. That's a thought. And then refocus on your breath. Do this over and over and over until time's up. It will get easier. And thank you, Vivian. Yeah, you can check out Transcendental Meditation in the chat. I mean, one of the reasons I promote it is that, not to go down a rabbit hole, but there are more than 600 peer-reviewed studies that show transcendental meditation is better than other types of meditation for all kinds of, like I was saying, stress, PTSD, burnout. So if anybody's interested in learning more, please do contact me. But if you've got any questions about any form of meditation or anything else I'm talking about, I do invite you to contact me. This is important and I want to share it with everybody. So thank you, Vivian, for that. Okay, so next, 5, gratitude. The Association of Clinicians for the Underserved says a gratitude practice has the power to lift you up by shifting your perspective, fostering positivity and refocusing your mind on what's really important. I write down in an app 3 things I'm grateful for every morning. Excuse me. Here's my app entry from Monday. It's best to be specific, which I was not in this entry. But if you look at my entries like this one, you'll see a lot of just tired or lazy or grumpy mornings where I literally just write my boyfriend, my cat, sunny weather. But it's something, right? And it takes less than a minute. Excuse me. But, I was starting to feel like I wasn't feeling like I was getting benefits from this gratitude practice. I'm reading all these studies about how great it is for you. And so I got to thinking, I bet I'm not being specific enough. So it was kind of validating to see that the advice is to be more specific. So an example of that, now when I'm feeling tired or lazy, I was looking back through some of my entries. One day I wrote, I'm grateful that my boyfriend moved in. I'm grateful that my cat is speaking to me again after a month of blowing me off. So even a little more specific, like for this one, instead of just writing Indian food, I had Indian food the night before and it was delicious. So I could have written like, thank goodness for the Indian food in the Indian restaurant, in the next town over because their food is amazing. And as far as micro habits go also, these are known ways to build healthy habits. To be very honest with you, argue with my boyfriend constantly because he's a very all or nothing guy and I'm very much not. I'm very into not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. So I can't tell you how many times this man has said to me, I'm going to start waking up an hour earlier. He already wakes up at 6. I'm going to start waking up an hour early every day and I'm going to meditate for 60 minutes. Do you know how many times he's done that in the 5.5 years we've been together? 0. I advocated to you starting for a minute, start for 5 minutes, then build on that. Those are proven ways to incorporate better habits into your life. Again, if anybody has any questions, comments, shares, please do put them in the chat. We're starting to wrap up. And before I do wrap up, I do also want to touch on something that, came up this morning, and that is the guilt factor of self-care and taking time for ourselves. A couple slides ago, I posted that little, I showed that little sticker, self-care isn't selfish. But we've been programmed to feel like self-care is selfish, especially for working moms, for instance. I was struck a while ago by somebody saying to me, and this is something that people say a lot, my self-care is taking a shower and washing my hair. Okay, that is great. If you're stressed, take a shower, wash your hair, please. I have done that when I've been feeling very anxious. It's made me feel better. But that's not really self-care, right? That's something that you have to do. So we are so programmed to feel like we have to output. And this has been a huge challenge for me over the past couple of years as I've worked very hard to decenter work and center myself. Now, luckily, I do work for myself. I don't have to argue with the boss except for myself, who's not all that nice sometimes. But sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Guilt, yes. What I do tell myself when I'm feeling guilty about not folding the laundry for like the second week in a row because I feel like I really need to watch an episode of Netflix or I really need to read a book instead. Because before it would have been like productivity. So I am still dealing with the guilt. That is something that a lot of us have been trained to feel, in Western culture and depending on our families and such. Here's what I tell myself that helps me feel better when I'm practicing self-care instead of doing something that I'm like supposed to be doing, like folding the socks, is I'm smashing the patriarchy. In 21st century capitalism, we're just going all the time. And that's how it was set up by rich white men a couple hundred years ago. So in order to create a more holistic society where we are all healthier and more community oriented and not as burnt out, that is what I tell myself. This is me smashing the patriarchy. I'm going to go to the park and read a book. So with that said, let's see. I got one more slide. Hold on. Wait a second. Here we go. So I'm going to close by sharing some organizations that I'm grateful for that are doing really wonderful work in the wellness space. There are many others, but here's some that I do rely on a lot. Many of them have free resources, so I do encourage you to check them out. I want to specifically call out fellow speaker and beer journalist Stephanie Grant, who writes and speaks about her own experiences with burnout in beer in her newsletter, The Share. She also hosted a great podcast on Good Beer Hunting about burnout. And Ruvani Da Silva, another beer journalist, just published a story, I believe it was yesterday, in Pellicle Mag about burnout in diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice efforts in beer. And Dr. J, the goddess of all things DEI in beer and everywhere else, as far as I'm concerned, writes about it on her blog as well. So in addition to these resources you see on the screen. But obviously you can Google all of these organizations and find all of their resources, tons of free resources. And I do encourage you to check all of them out. Now, here's my information if you want to contact me. If you're interested in learning more about burnout and workplace wellness, along with some talk about meditation and resources to get you connected to that, you can bring me to your place of work for workshops, webinars, etc. I will take any questions in the chat. We haven't really had many questions yet, but if anybody's got any, we'll wait another minute or two to see. And I'll try to think of a story to fill time that I haven't already shared. I think at this point, maybe if I share anything else, I'll just end up going way off script and probably put my foot in my mouth at some point, sharing some TMI. So if there are not any other questions, I think we're good. Vivian, do you have anything else you want to add or share? Not to put you on the spot. If not, we'll just send everybody back to their work. Actually, because we're ending a little bit early, you could go outside, right? And take some walks. Smell the
Tara,
roses,
this has been
literally.
so great. You have been great. I wrote down a note.
Okay.
Nature, get some. That's my note. So thank you so much. If anyone has questions, we'll wait for a couple of minutes for Tara to give some of her insight. I think this has been a super powerful conversation that can never be had enough, no matter how many times. And you said it during your presentation. You were getting ready to talk about something. You're like, I know you all. I'm like, yeah, I heard it, but it doesn't matter. We need to keep hearing it so it can beat in our heads. You said a couple of things that resonated with me, even though I've heard it before. I needed to hear it this morning. So Thank you so much for all of this. Did you have any last, advice that you would give people? Maybe some things that people have asked you and maybe you didn't get to touch on?
Well, one thing that I did find interesting that I did touch on was, you call out nature. I didn't realize that just listening to nature sounds or bringing in a plant can be, can have so much benefit if you can't get out into nature. So that was one surprise. I know, and I did touch on this too, but something else to emphasize is this idea of, I can't meditate. My social media intern is actually a meditation instructor, happily. And she has really taken to a type of meditation, which is kind of the kind I went over, called mindfulness meditation, because it is that accessible type of meditation that I was talking about. I mean, you will find some meditation instructors who don't think it's okay to have thoughts, but like, no, I don't believe in that. Meditation is supposed to be about where you're at. So you sit there, you have thoughts, you just come back to the breath. You have another thought, you just come back to the breath. So there's no such thing as I can't meditate. And like I said that for years. I mean, I went and lived in San Francisco after college to do the whole like, oh, I'm moving to the West and finding myself. And I took all these Buddhist courses and meditation courses. And, you know, I said the same, I can't meditate, until I found out through transcendental meditation, actually, that like thoughts are fine. So go easy on yourself. Like I said, I believe in progress, not perfection. Small habits are the way to start, and they just build on one another. And then, you know what? There is one thing that we could talk about for a second that's an effective habit building approach, and that's called habit stacking. And I did kind of touch on it without talking about it. If you want to incorporate a good habit, attach it to something you already do. So I think I said, say 3 things you're grateful for while you're brushing your teeth, right? So like, you got to brush your teeth, attach the gratitude to it. Or, you know, I want to take a 10-minute mindfulness walk every day. If I was having trouble getting started with that, I would attach it to, you know, finishing my morning meditation. Okay, I finish my morning meditation, and then right after that, I go for a walk. Oh, habit stacking. Fabulous. You're a perfect moderator. Yeah, I think those are some good things to reiterate. I don't want to babble too much more, but yeah, I'm happy to take any other questions like that from you or anybody else. That was a great question.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we are winding down. We have about 3 minutes left, and I don't see any other questions in the chat. Tara, this has been great. Thank you so much for all you do for the beer community, just the community at large, and for sharing your time here at the Crafted for Action conference. So thank you all virtual watchers for taking the time this morning with Tara to learn this valuable information. And please take a moment to rate this panel using the link in the panel description or on the Watch Craft Beer Con page on the website. So if there's nothing else, thank you so much, Tara, for being here.
Thank you so much. We did awesome. Have a great day, everybody.